the history of Rise. We're in a 5-week month, and in this 5th week we're going to be talking about miscellaneous things that don't fit neatly into the 4 components of what we do: lifestyle, exercise, adherence and nutrition. And in today's video I'm going to talk about the history of Rise, because over recent weeks I've had a number of people ask me how this place came to being, if it's mine, if it's a franchise, and just general questions I've realised that perhaps we haven't put answers out there to for a little while. So in general, I started in the fitness industry nearly 20 years ago. On March the 6th, which is this coming weekend, that'll mark 20 years since I had my first shift as a gym instructor at Fitness First Derby, having just completed a fitness instructor course at the YMCA at Cambridge, finishing on the 23rd of February, if I remember correctly. I have a degree in manufacturing engineering and operations management, a 2-1 from the University of Nottingham, and that was very much my intent for what I intended to do with my life. But by the time I finished my degree, I realised that wasn't what I wanted to do. And randomly, for those that haven't heard the story, I decided I wanted to follow my childhood dream of becoming a professional wrestler. I'd always watched it, sat on my dad's knee, Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks, etc. And then in the 1990s, WWF on Sky, and thought I'd like to do that. Never really thinking I could or would. And I remember getting to 21 and thinking, if I don't try it at some point in the next few years, I'll regret it. I'll get to 30, 40 years old and it'll be too late and I'll regret not trying it. So firstly, I needed to get in shape because I wasn't in any sort of shape. Leaving university, I was 16 stone 10 and not a good 16 stone 10, shall we say. So I decided to help me pursue that goal, that working in the fitness industry made sense. So I went on that first course, the level 2, started working in fitness, got fitter, moved to Sheffield, where at that point was one of only 3 wrestling schools in the UK, and started working as a freelance personal trainer there, which I did for 3 years before moving into fitness manager, club manager and then regional manager positions, which takes us to around about 2010, when I decided to step back from management and get back into the actual personal training. And I opened a studio at my house at Bakewell I'd just moved into with my then wife. And whilst I was in the process of setting up that, started doing one-to-one personal training at the then JJB Fitness Club in Macclesfield, with the intention being that I could get that up and running very quickly and then slowly reduce that over time as I built up the client base at the studio over at Bakewell. That was a small studio just previously created by the previous owner, who was an artist, through the back of the garage. After a year and a half or so of that, my wife and I decided to separate, so I had to close that place down, and I therefore was looking for something new to do. It was never my intention to spend another 30 years doing one-to-one in a gym until I retired, so I wanted to set up some sort of new facility. And I knew that Matt, who longer-term members will remember, had thoughts of doing something similar in the Buxton area where I was living temporarily at that point, having just separated. So we discussed the idea of doing something together, and we set up what at that point was called Guaranteed Fitness in Buxton, 10 years ago now, February 2012, before quickly opening up the second club, this one here in Macclesfield, in September 2012. For the next 2 years, we had both clubs, until in the summer of 2014 we closed the original Buxton club, which had never quite been as successful as this one. And then for the next several years ran just this club, renaming it in 2014 to the Academy Group Transformation Centre, which we felt fitted where we were at and what we offered a lot more at that particular point. Guaranteed Fitness felt very much like the name of a gym, and hopefully you realise that's very different to the message we want to put out there and the way we want to do things. So fast forward then to just before lockdown, I brought Matt out. We completed the full exchange 2 days before, not before the full lockdown, 2 days before the gyms closed. So that'd be Wednesday the 18th of March 2020. And then Boris announced the closure of gyms and other similar services on the Friday the 20th, and full lockdown came through on Monday the 23rd. I'd been considering a change in some of the ways we did things and potentially a rename and rebrand at that point, but it very much seemed absolutely perfect coming out of lockdown to do it for a combination of reasons. Firstly, we'd had some structural changes to the club. Secondly, it very much reflected a change over the previous few years in the way that we've been doing things, and reflected the whole concept of rising out of the ashes of lockdown. So when we reopened on July the 12th, 2020, we became Rise. And in general, over the course of the last 10 years, what we do has evolved and improved exponentially. We put more support systems in place, we put a lot more ability to keep in contact with and benefit people from when we don't see them. You know, however often someone comes to sessions here, there's another 160 odd hours in the week which have anything a bigger impact on their results. So lots of systems to help support that, to not make it perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but to make it so that it helps take them in the direction they want to go in rather than undoing the good work of the sessions. So that is the potted history of my fitness career and of Rise. 10 years this September since we opened this particular club, and here's to the next 10 or more.